This is episode 699 with actress, and she's known in the sports industry too, Jay Howarth. She's got 3 Super Bowl rings. She got 3 game balls. She's an Olympic gold medalist. She does everything in the industry, not only sports, but like I said earlier, actress. And we're gonna get to all of that. But first of all, how are you and your family doing during this tough time? Obviously, we're in a new year. I'm hoping some positive news comes out for all of us here. But how are you and your family doing?
Thank you, Nathan. It's great to be here. My family is thankfully doing well. I have a nephew on the front lines. He's a nurse. He and his beautiful girlfriend are a nurse, are nurses in Colorado. And obviously we are all in supporting our first responders. So thank you for asking and starting there. We got to heal this world.
Yeah, for sure. I'm all about helping out people. I'm all about community. So we need to come out together as a community to find a way to cure this thing.
Yeah.
For you, I want to talk about your career first. I want to talk about your acting career. So when did you start getting interested in acting, and what was that process like for you in the beginning when you started that?
Well, it's a great question. And I love talking about it. For me, acting is really my sport. Mm-hmm. It sounds but where I took my peak performance in sports, I did game entertainment and halftime shows and dance and the cast of thousands and the Busby Berkeley kind of scene that we all love. But where I studied art and theater and again, peak performance for myself was in acting. So after quite a few years in sports, I, with the 49ers, as a matter of fact, I went to New York and I started studying there. And when I say I was late to the game, and when I say I was green when I went to New York, I mean, you think you know how to do it. I think great actors make it look easy. But there's great writers and great lighting, this kind of stuff. So to go into the heart, thank you. Acting was the thing that I had a burning desire for, which they say, I couldn't shake it. So I went straight into the heart of it in New York City.
Yeah, so speaking of acting, I actually had a couple actors on my show. For example, from the show All American, I had Kareem Grimes and Jalen Hall on the show, and obviously,
wow,
yeah, and they're so great to talk to. It's such an honor to talk to those people, and obviously that show is amazing. I watch that show every day or whenever it's on. But for you, obviously, it's important to build connections and networking in sports, not only sports but every business that you work in. So for you, what's been like your journey's been like in the acting business, connecting with other actors, actresses, being able to share your stories with them and trying to work with them and make the best possible movies and content out there?
Well, networking and your support system is everything. I mean, they totally say it's who you know, but I don't think the way that sounds is, well, you must know Steven Spielberg. Mm-hmm. But that, I don't think, I think in every industry, but it's more true in acting, that your community is what feeds you. It's what passes down the legacy of, every lesson in acting is passed on to you from somebody else, more experienced. Sometimes it's a tough road to hoe. When I first got to New York, I was friends with a bunch of the people that were in the Actors Studio. And so I would go watch at the Actors Studio, the rehearsal sessions. And man, I am telling you, the old guard of the Actors Studio, they all sat in that front row, and then you would go up. And I remember seeing an actress once do a scene. I mean, there was an audience, and maybe it's the toughest audience of all, but all these actors were in there and whatnot. And she did this. I thought it was a brilliant scene. And at the end of her scene, I mean, it was a tough 30 minutes on stage by herself. There was just a voice off stage that fed her every now and again, but the rest was her. And Ellen Burstyn, who is the queen of acting in general, but certainly of the studio. There was this long pause after she finished. This actress did her thing, and there was this long pause. And Ellen just very carefully said, "How did you prepare?" And the actress burst into tears going, I know, I didn't hit it. And it, it's a silent language. It is about what is happening inside of you and making that authentic. So you need to be tough enough to take that feedback. And then you also need, somebody says, I need this. You have to hit it. It's so similar to sports.
Yeah.
It's a mind game. It's all inside you. You might be playing something different than who you are, but it is the most rewarding community. It can be the most supportive community that you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for you, outside of all the movies you've done, what would you say your most memorable one is and the most toughest one you guys did?
Well, that's easy. And it's funny because you're actually staying tied into my experience at the Actors Studio.
Yeah.
The actors at the Actors Studio have to audition. And again, it's tougher than any paid audience, no matter how big it is. But one of my friends was applying for the Actors Studio, and his partner dropped out at the very last minute. And I have to put these two things together. I was working for Nike Global at the time in my day job. And then I would take these months and go to New York. So, but I had a real just do it attitude. And this guy, his name is Joe Catalano, and it was a piece that was written in the Actors Studio by a talented playwright named Joe DeQuino. Anyway, I said I would step in at the last minute because no other actress would. Everybody in this production, they'd been in the New York Times. They had all this publicity saying they were the next wave of great actors. And Joe and I stepped in going, let's hit it. And I played an Italian sister, younger sister, to an Italian guy. I was taller, I was older, and I was blonde. So it really had to come from a very deep place. And everything that makes a great acting scene came together. It's on the edge, it's real. We were brother and sister in the piece, and we had a fight. We were having a fight, and it was a good dramatic scene. Anyway, Joe about picked me up and spun me around, like the adrenaline, because the stakes were so high in front of this Actors Studio board, like it was incredible. But the scene, because of the emotions and the nerves and the adrenaline, this scene exploded on stage. So, and he got into the Actors Studio, because I would have not wanted to be the reason that he did not get in. He was in the New York Times, it was the arts and leisure section. So it was the day that I thought, I'm an actress now. You kind of have to test it somewhere, but it's thrilling. I think a lot of your acting, unlike sports, I think in sports, we all saw you run across that line and make that touchdown in the end of the game when it all was lost in the last minute. We all see that. In acting, it's a little bit different, because a lot of times the biggest moments that happen inside you, that launch you, that connect you, that make you fearless, they happen in other situations. And that's what gives you the courage. So that was mine.
That's amazing. So after obviously after your acting career and you went into the sports industry, and what was that like transitions like from acting and going into the sports industry, and when did that come about?
Well, they have blended, there's a very natural blend for me, because I I guess I just see peak performance
Mhm.
as, you know, if it's singing, if it's acting, if it's being on a stage, you have to hit it. And there is it's physical, you know, and it's mental. So hitting the right tone at the difference is there's a part of it that's scripted. Well, I liken that to the game plan. The great actors and athletes, you have a play, but if an opportunity opens up on the field, you got to be able to be in your head enough and well rehearsed enough to go off script and off the game plan and run through that tiny little hole, right? So for me, having come from NFL
Yeah.
field and working in, I did Olympic shows. I wasn't the lead producer, but I took it all in. And we, as sports entertainment producers, we're there to give the audience that pride, that athleticism, the drama of this international competition. So to get deeper in my understanding and use that drama and that understanding of emotion and storytelling and whatnot has always been very natural. And but I will say, at the point that I was working my hardest as an actress, both in improv comedy, you know, all the arts, that was also when I got hired by Nike Film and Video globally. And they were in their next wave of just do it, that global message.
Right.
And that's all emotion. So I have to say that both of those two things happening at once, it really changed me. It changed my game. It changed my game. Yeah.
So obviously you have a lot of awards, obviously 3 Super Bowl rings, and you got 3 game balls, and then you got an Olympic gold medal. Man,
you see these? I brought a couple of little, I know they kind of look little here.
That's amazing.
That is John Elway's second ring. And I have it upside down. I do.
Wow.
That is John Elway's size floating. This was from when we retired his jersey at Mile High Stadium. Anyway, I'm sorry. I thought I'd pull out the bling, but I didn't mean to interrupt your question.
Oh no, that's whenever I see that, that's amazing. That's really. But for you though, what's it like as a woman? Obviously, women in sports is growing by the minute, and I love what I'm seeing. We'll get to that later. But for you yourself, what's it like just to have an Olympic gold medal, and then you have 3 game balls, 3 Super Bowl rings? What's that like, just to have that in your career?
It changes you. It changes you. It's an honor. It's humbling. But I think that, again, because I've listened to your other interviews and whatnot, your connection to community, there is nothing as heartfelt and deeply felt and received.
By the way, sorry to cut you off, but I just want to say thank you for watching my other interviews. That's amazing, and it's such an honor, and I'm just thankful that you are a supporter.
You know what? I was so cool. I watched a bunch, you know, leading up, and I was like, I hope I'm 700. I hope I'm interview 700. And I'm
actually,
like,
Johnny Damon will be 700 tomorrow.
Dang it, I'm 699. Missed it by this much. Yeah. Well, you're welcome. And it's, you know, it's such an exciting time in terms of these podcasts. And again, for you to have done almost 700, it's incredible. Congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
I mean, that used to be, you know, just a pipe dream. And this gives you quite a resume and a body of work yourself. So good on you for making it happen. But anyway, yeah, no, when your community supports and acknowledges you, you never take it for granted. As a woman, to your point, I never expected it to be given a game ball after an event for creating the momentum in the stadium. You got to know, it just takes you off guard. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes you off guard, and it runs very deep. My loyalty to my teams and the projects and that kind of stuff runs very, very deep for me.
So obviously, what was the experience like being with the Denver Broncos organization? And experiencing great players like legendary. You just mentioned John Elway, and then you have I think you had Terrell Davis. If I'm not mistaken, and all
Yep.
those, Rod Smith even, and then Carl Meckenberger. I had Rod Smith and Carl on my show last year, both of them. So it was an honor. But what was it like just being with those legendary players in Denver?
It's a little bit indescribable for me, and this comes from having worked with a lot of different teams, a lot of good teams, a lot of winning teams, a lot of the community of Denver. I'm here to tell you there's no place like it. It's small enough of a town, it's not that small, but being that it's in the middle of the country as opposed to on one of the coasts, I think you have a lot more access to the community, and you could go about your daily life in a way more than maybe some other places. So the bond at the Broncos organization and the timing with Pat Bolin, the owner, Pat Bolin, my relationship with Mr. Bolin was to change the home field advantage and create the cheerleading program when John Elway's career they had done Dan Reeves, right? And not gotten it done in Denver. So now Wade Phillips comes in for 2 years before Shanahan takes over. But Mr. Bolin, first of all, the NFL in the big picture, it's like no other circumstance. I mean, you think of a huge Nike, or you think of the good, like a league, the NFL owners can make or break this huge sports brand. They're huge global sports brand. And to have a one-on-one conversation with Pat Bolin,
Right.
who cared very deeply, but the stakes are so high that, you're moving that conversation along like this. And he treated me, we had a great relationship. He wanted to give me the tools and all that kind of stuff. So to rally, if you will, I think every sports fan feels this, and Denver is so into the Broncos. Everybody wears their lucky socks. Nobody lets the team down. Denver is, to this day, will always be my home and my heart and my home team, and nothing is ever going to change that. And I've worked with a lot of sports organizations, but it may be the most precious relationship in sports that I have.
Yeah, Denver. Speaking of Denver fan base, I think, in my opinion, they're one of the best fan bases you guys have, especially Mile High Stadium. I'm hoping, hopefully, we have fans coming up this season.
Yes,
because it's just weird not seeing fans in some of these sports, and especially in Denver, when those fans come in there, especially during high caliber competitive games, they bring it. They rock. They bring it they bring the heat in Denver. So yeah. So
well, again, when you have that kind of excitement and whatnot, you'd be really surprised how fast you can pull the plug on that energy if you don't do your game day right. So the game day staff, the cheerleaders, the music, the big screens, this is a real technical situation, right? That's going down. And you'd just be surprised. I mean, how fast that can go wrong, but they get it right in Denver. So I couldn't agree with you more. I'm their biggest fan.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about the Olympics, because I think when it comes to Olympics, it's really inspiring how many athletes compete in it every year, and then each of these athletes have really they come from different backgrounds. Oh, there you go.
Isn't that beautiful? That's just something.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so like all these athletes that join the Olympics, they come from different backgrounds and different diversities. And what's it like just be part of the Olympics, and especially winning a gold medal in your career?
Well, the Olympics is special, and the idea that you are in Olympic Village for 30 days, sometimes for some people 60 days, it is also a marathon for everybody who works there. So there's something to be said for all that special, and and there's events going on for, all over the city and all that kind of stuff. So there's truly nothing like it. I have been truly lucky to be, I've done all 3 American Olympics in my lifetime, and was also, again, through Hollywood channels, was in the room when LA pitched for the Olympics in 2024 and got 2028. So I think what I love about the Olympics is it is a different, it truly is the sporting event that the world embraces. So the whole world is involved. It truly is a global sports coming together. The World Cup has a bit of it too, for sure, but that's just one sport. So an Olympic village, an Olympic city, is festive from the word go. And it's an energy that you take with you. But if you ever get the chance to even volunteer, I have to say, because you said all the athletes and whatnot, there's more volunteers, or for example, more people get to be in a big Olympic ceremonies. There's so many ways for a person that loves it and wants to get involved to be part of the feel and the grit and the fabric of an Olympics. It truly does take the whole city. Like, nobody gets to have a bad attitude. Nobody gets to have a bad attitude. It's magic. It's worth it. And I think with everything going on in the world, I think we have to consider these events. It's easy to get jaded. Every Olympic city, well, and we should talk about what happens after the Olympics leave town and what are we doing to the homeless. I'm on the side of the veil where I see all the efforts that actually go into that. And, we have to take these as precious moments and not give them up, because with security being different and with, honestly, my work, and even in Hollywood, theaters, concerts, stadiums, they can appear to be like targets. So we can never let up, and it's constantly evolving. But everybody in an Olympic city can be involved, and we're always hoping people will.
Yeah, I mean, how tough was it for you, especially not have, like, when they had to cancel the this year's Olympics because of COVID? How tough is it seeing that? And I think hopefully by 2022 and the other one comes up. But for you, how tough is it when they canceled it?
It's devastating. And all the people that have been working on this is, well, what's nice is in Tokyo's going to get a shot at doing the games.
Right.
It's delayed, but it's not gone away forever. I was in the stadium. I was working at the Olympics in Atlanta when there was a bombing and nobody knew who that was. In fact, one of my game balls, which is this one over here over my shoulder, with the women's soccer team, that big woman, Mia Hamm, Brandy Chesney, those guys. I was there. I did the entertainment for the Olympics and that World Cup. That I was working with that team, which was, as a woman, really cool.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I got that game ball because everybody did not choose to go into the stadium after, because you were a target,
right?
And there was sniper rifles on, and royalty attends those soccer games. The prince of that country comes to see his country play, and so it makes if he does, in those cases they're tough, but it is devastating. And that's why I think, even you take a situation, I've never been involved with the Boston Marathon, but you look at the resilience of Boston, that they came back after a tough circumstance. It breaks your heart. Like, that side breaks your heart. And it actually helps define and make you dig very deep. So we've gotta not get so jaded that we don't need it, because we need it way more than anybody, especially in tough times. We need it more than anything.
Like, and also even the shooting that happened in
I
Vegas.
do think,
Mhm. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
you know,
Mhm.
well, and even I can remember being a little kid, and this is a little bit sketchy for me, but you know, there's been a lot of times in my time, some of the people that I knew, their Olympic year was canceled,
Yeah.
right? And that's it, because you then age out possibly, or you don't have the funds, your life goes on. So if you miss your Olympic window, I have too many friends who up hearing those stories of back in the day when there was problems, and Olympics, you know, have been canceled before. So it's not a phenomenon that we haven't dealt with before, but as the world evolves, it becomes a little, it's always a new puzzle to crack. So
Hmm.
it's a, yeah, it's happened, but sporting events are so much a sign of the times. This Olympic, excuse me, Super Bowl last week, I posted on my social media, the last time that Tampa hosted the Olympics was when Whitney Houston sang her big anthem,
Oh, wow.
right? That thing, right? And I was in the stadium that day. It was when I first started. Me and Whitney first started in the business, and I was in the stands, and we were scared because the U.S. had bombed in Desert Storm. The U.S. had bombed that day, like within the 24 hours, but the way the day and night is different. We didn't even know if there was going to be a Super Bowl, and the heavy heart, the heaviness, you could feel it in the air. And you got to know, there weren't turnstiles or metal detectors back in that day. You didn't carry a plastic purse that was see-through. None of that. None of that. So Commissioner Tagliabue's Super Bowl party was canceled and scaled back. You know, you felt like, are we okay? It has changed, it has evolved so much, but that's where these ceremonies, and why art and theater and the gift of song, this story is just, all you have to do is watch. If you listen to the recording of Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, which we needed in our hearts, something that she delivered. We couldn't have asked for it. We wouldn't have known how to say it, but she delivered. I mean, you can hear the jets in the background and all that stuff, and you can feel the emotion. That's why no one's ever beaten that anthem. That's why it was the great, and I'm thrilled to say that was a long time ago, and it was a young, beautiful Black girl singer that stepped up and united the country. And
Yep.
we need to remember that. It was a woman, it was a young girl, that talk about the girl power, and it was a woman of color, and it was a woman that's so phenomenally talented. We have no words for that, but you know, one young Black girl can change the world. I think, Amanda Gorman, our poet laureate, I think
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think, so this is where the arts and the ceremony and whatnot, it is the glue of our culture. It
Yeah.
lifts us up, it brings us together, and it transforms us as only the arts. The arts have a unique sports, and again, peak performance. It's so necessary. It's so powerful and healing in our world.
I mean, during the pregame, before the Super Bowl started, the last week, they showed Amanda Gorman. Man, it's just amazing how she recites these stuff. I don't know. She's the next. I mean, I think she's gonna be the next. I think already one of the best poets out there, in my opinion. The way she does her work.
She's a supernova.
Yeah.
She's a supernova. She's not just a star, she's a supernova. And, the world mourns the loss of Maya Angelou on this planet. To have that voice And, you know, I've been just kind of obsessed with Miss Amanda and what her story is. And actually, she is a Southern California girl. And I've got a lot of friends, one in particular who reached out to me and said she and Elijah Solomon went to school together. So, you know, anybody that's training, you know, this is this, again, you asked at the start, what about the community in the acting world or in the arts world, and how important is it? I can't tell you how many endless hours have gone into her being able to do what she's doing now. And the gift of words and the power of words and all that stuff. Thank goodness everybody is not, I hate that I'm gonna say this, watching the Kardashians all day long. Thank God that there are still places where, and we need to support them and we need to fund them, but thank goodness there are these places that keep those arts alive.
Yeah. I want to get to another important topic here with you, and this is really important. I want to talk about women in sports and also diversity and minority coaches in sports. So, what do you like seeing, especially women in sports? Obviously, outside of sports, you have Camille Harris, the first VP president, female, and then in sports, you got Becky Hammon, who coached the game this year. You have Sarah Thomas, the first female ref in the Super Bowl. That's amazing. And then you have Sarah Fuller, first female to kick a field goal in the Power 5 conference. So what's it like just seeing women in sports growing like this? And not only that, but minority coaches, diversity growing too at the same time, blending in.
Well, it's not enough. You know, it's easy to just, I mean, it's good. Of course it's good, but it's also a long time in coming. So we want to see more. I saw such, this is hard one with me. This is not, you know, me blowing smoke. The NFL's message changed, 50 years worth of messaging changed this year. And from the beginning of the Black Lives Matter, I mean, 2020, having us all just sit down, there's no question that there was something really big at our foundation that was here to change. Yeah. So I have admired the NFL's messaging from, I remember the commissioners, in fact, it was a conversation in so many businesses with so many clients, the meetings I was having as the Black Lives Matter movement unfolded. And that's probably not even racial equality. I need to call it racial equality. And you can obviously take this back to Kaepernick, but it changed dramatically. People pivoted, people changed said we've evolved. And I have such high hopes for an explosion in all that. And I have been arguing, so I'm going to then go to the other side of that. In the front office, in the executive level, in every other dimension of sports, I have always known the one or two women at the top. Back in my London Wembley days, which was my first home stadium at the executive level, our assistant general manager was a woman. So I was lucky enough. And I mean, if you think about it, this just makes sense. If they're open-minded enough to hire me to do their game day and improve their game day and their cheerleaders and all that kind of stuff, specifically because they know that women are 47% to 50% of their fan base, and the woman's experience in my whole lifetime, it's not been it's a man's game. In my whole lifetime, 50% or just shy of 50% of your audience is women.
Right.
So to not have that represented, and of course, this is true with most things, sports is the target that we all go, sports should get it right, sports not doing enough. But sports is representative and often way ahead of the corporate curve in other places. So if you and I were to take your question and compare it to Fortune 500 companies on ratio of women, NFL in particular, because I have a lot of connections or ties and, affection for that. And I also watch him like a hawk.
Yeah.
It is way ahead of the curve, So it's good. And we're not done.
Nope.
It's an ongoing process. I want to ask you, in all your conversations.
Actually, you might like this, because me and Alyssa, we had Demir Smith on, the NFLPA guy. I think you saw that one. We had him on, I think last month, and he brought. It was an honor to talk to him, because he explained everything what they do in the NFLPA department, and he obviously works with Roger Goodell, and it was just an honor for him to come on the show, and we learned a lot from that interview too.
Well, like I must have tangented, not me. But I was going to say, in a lot of meetings with a lot of my other clients for big events and other brands, and not necessarily sports, when Roger Goodell came out on TV after this started to happen, and he reversed his opinion on what had gone down with Kaepernick.
Yeah.
And just that simple, like, it shouldn't be that hard. He made it look exact. I mean, that's why it was a topic of conversation, because a lot of people were going, oh gosh, everybody needed to make a statement. A lot, in every business, your customers wanted to know where you stood, and your audience, as well as your employees, everybody's account balance sheets as to how they're doing, your stats in every business. Everybody was put on notice and whatnot. And the NFL and Roger Goodell's speech that day, I was stunned and impressed, not surprised. I think the world of him, and I know what a hard job that is. It's like president of anything. There's a size at which you hit the 50-50 rule. And the minute you get the job, 50% of the people love you and 50% of the people hate you. Whatever decision. So, 50-50 rule. I know he appears to be 50-50, but I'm a big fan.
Oh, what were you going to say before you're going to ask a question?
I was going to ask you if, in the broader picture this summer, or excuse me, this year, of all your interviews, how is Kaepernick faring, do you think? Like, where are you talking about? And you may not be talking about him in particular, but what do you glean? Because you've talked to all different sports, all different newscasters, players, coaches. You've talked to everybody. Where do you feel like, what's your pulse on the sports industry on this diversity issue?
I mean, for example, I had Nate Boyer on last year. He's a big reason of this Kaepernick thing. Obviously, former Green Beret and former long snapper in the NFL, and he told me everything about it, because I think he's the one who he helped out Kaepernick, and he wanted a sit down meeting with Kaepernick to figure out what's going on here, and he came up with the idea to kneel. But speaking of diversity, I mean, obviously I don't talk about Kaepernick specifically, like you just said, and but sometimes I bring up diversity questions, and some of the guests, some of them do bring up Kaepernick as an example. I think for him, for some reason, I mean, I can't, I don't know. Obviously I can't choose for Kaepernick. He can do whatever he wants, but I understand where Kaepernick is coming from for himself. I get he's making a statement. Some people think it's on the negative side, but I think, I don't know how to put it, but I think for him, I think he's just doing it to make diversity better, I think. But I just don't know how to explain it with that. But I can't go against Kaepernick what he's doing. I think he's making a statement to improve some.
Yeah,
he's trying to improve something, I think. So.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I also think that he is aware that there's something bigger going on here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more is revealed as to what he's working on, or how this will manifest, his legacy will manifest in the world of his advocacy, right? Not so much football, but but boy, did he do something powerful in that little boy.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. And I would like to think that even with especially with the controversy, I mean, I don't think he ever thought in his wildest dreams that was going to be what it turned out to be. And it's why he did it. Cause it was, it took us 2.5 years to catch up when we saw the George Floyd tape. It just it took time for everybody to go, oh, sorry, which is crazy. But anyway.
I mean, that's unacceptable what happened there. And I think the cops should have done better in that situation. And it's just devastating. I really thought we're past this situation, but we're not past anything. We still have to improve as a country. I don't know how, but we have, I mean, like I said early in the beginning, come together as a community and come up with ways how to solve all these issues. And so far, it's not solving anything. It's just a lot of things are happening. So,
yeah. Well, you know what, I think to turn it, big change takes time. And I think, there was an economic downturn in 2008. And out of that economic downturn, after we were done with it, Airbnb showed up and changed the hotel world. An innovation, Uber showed up and changed the taxi business. So we're not going to see it right now, but that taught me a lot, even like we don't even remember it seems funny for me to say this, but we don't even remember a world before there was a Starbucks.
Yeah.
But it changed everything that there's coffee houses, I mean, those kinds of innovations change our lives, so I'm expecting that we will see an explosion of change. And until we get this vaccine thing all rolled out, we're in it. We're still in it. We're in our history. So, having conversations like these and what can you do and just at around our dinner tables. And, I actually think there's more change than you can quite feel yet. But I think there's more changing in terms of a big systemic change.
Yeah. So, okay, a couple more things here before I let you go. And speaking of sharing platforms, what's it like being sharing your own story to obviously on this show? And I saw you on the show yesterday too, and you were on Global Kids Media shows, and you're a busy woman when it comes to interviews and shows. So what's it like just sharing your story on every platform?
You know what? It put me a little bit out of my comfort zone, and but I decided to be brave, but I'll tell you, there's a reason. It's on principle. And that reason is with when 2020 shut down the events world, like live events are it's a huge part of our economy that's just waiting. We're going to be the last ones to come back. But I think all of us were going, how can I make a difference? How can I, and what causes would be my lane? What would be my lane? And so when I realized how I thought you might go, what women inspire you? Well, today, tons of women inspire me. Yeah. But at the time, growing up and coming through the business, I didn't have anybody. There was no role models. Do you know what I mean? And even in my own fitness or whatever, I laughed the other day because I was telling the story of falling down. I was running. When I was running, I fell down and I cracked my kneecap on the asphalt. And I remember thinking I probably shouldn't get up and run. And, but then I said to myself, Mia Hamm is fallen down on the asphalt and she got up and ran. And that was all I had. I mean, it's so new. And again, working with that first Women's World Cup explosion. And I thought of them when you said, are we changing fast enough? What do you think? And I'm like, well, until the business, the industry, the economy of sports is supporting women in an equal fashion, we'll prove it. We're good. We'll get there. Yeah. But I realize women need to share their stories. So I also have only told the story of the the reasons it's out of my comfort zone is I've told the story of the event. I've told the story of the team. I've told you the story of the history of the beginning of something, but I've told my story, and my story within that, it's a little different. So it's new and it's fun. And I really appreciate the invitation, because I think this ties us all back to what you're doing and what we're doing here by our conversation. It is an artistic exploration. It is a discovery of what matters. And I think in terms of changing the world to make it right and equal for people of color and, diversity, or women, to make it equal, people like you and people like me need to come in here and hash it out. So I think we're saying these words right now. I think it's worth doing.
Yeah, so last few things here. Me and Alyssa, we're part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation. We're trying to help them out prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe, and making sure these kids make the right choices in their lives. And I'm going to send you the page so you can check it out. So we're just grateful to be ambassadors for them and helping out prevent human trafficking. So
that is so great. Thank you for sharing that. I have another shout out to another pro cheerleader dancer friend, Karen Elmore, who did the human, and it made my awareness go skyrocketing. So what you're doing, I didn't realize Hugh Jackman had a foundation around it. Thank you.
Hugh Jackson.
Oh, Hugh Jackson.
Yeah,
look at me, like Wolverine.
Former NFL coach. He's trying to get back into coaching though. Yeah.
Well, everybody who's doing it, thank you for doing it, and thank you for sharing it, and thank you for inviting me here today.
Yeah. So, and the last thing, or last two things, do you have any, like, real quick, do you have any, like, Kobe memories and Gianna memories?
Oh, I'll tell you. I was as a sports fan, Kobe was not warm and rosy and fuzzy.
Right.
He was a competitor, right? So when he was playing, you couldn't help but love him, but I never necessarily got a feel for who he was. But after he was done, I actually worked with Kobe on an event for Wall Street Journal. And Kobe was invited to the Wall Street Journal to talk from a point of view of being an investor and a businessman. And you've just never met a more warm and generous human being. When he was on the court, that wasn't his job. It wasn't his job to make nice with everybody. It was his job and he did his job. So I'm thankful that I got the chance to work one-on-one with him. And he truly, gone too soon, he truly was a magical being. When he sat on that stage, he was kind and big and generous to everyone, and everyone stepped up their game, but he was so smart. To see him in that light, he walked his walk and he talked his talk. Mm-hmm. He applied the moment of mentality to everything he did. And to hear him speak to business leaders and the Wall Street Journal crowd, a lot of times when a celebrity comes in, or an actor or an actress, to that crowd, they don't challenge the audience. They're entertaining. They bring something to the table, no doubt. Kobe was at their level, and he's gone way too soon, and he was cut off way too soon. So God bless his memory and bless his family, and may we all take a little bit of what he lived and stood for along with us to make it not as sad.
Yeah. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers?
Thank you. Thank you to all our first responders. And we know, I talked earlier about the Olympics being a 30 or 60 day, run. The Olympics would be hell if you had to do it for a year and you couldn't get out. We are not going to forget. We are going to feel and think of ways to give you rest, to help you renew. after this is all over, you are not forgotten, and we can't, you don't, you know, there's a whole big army of us out here that are doing everything we can to support what you're doing and not take away from it and not make your jobs harder. God bless you, your families, for your sacrifice.
Yep.
Your heroes and sheroes for all of us. Thank you.
So there it is. That wraps up episode 699 with Jay Howarth. She's an actress and she's well known in the sports industry, has 3 Super Bowl rings, Olympic gold medalist, and 3 game bowls. She's such an inspiration. Go follow her on all social media formats. And man, this has been an inspiring conversation and honor. I'll be posting this on all social media formats. Keep up the great work, and we'll stay connected. And hopefully you get to meet my co-host pretty soon. So
I would look forward to that. You guys keep up the good work that you're doing, and I will see you on all social media platforms too.
yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nathan.
Yep, see you.
Bye.